Hey everybody, so I wanted to do a series for absolute beginners, something for people who have never put together a rifle or maybe even bought a gun before. So I want to start from bare basics. If that's you, great, or even if you wanted to come for some more information and maybe brush up on some things, it's totally cool too. Hopefully this is helpful. Or if you're just looking to get back into it and build a new one and maybe are looking for some extra tips, hopefully this will be the video for you. But all in all, I wanted to start a series basically for absolute beginners where I just start from the basics. Now, I won't be showing you how to build a rifle, but I will be just giving you pointers, tips, and tricks on basically the best way to go about buying the parts and going online and shopping and going online looking for firearms, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to start from, obviously, the most basic thing is, what is a lower? So my first tip is going to be start with the AR platform. So this is a lower. As you see, it's basically just a piece of metal. There's not a whole lot to it. It's a piece of metal with some holes drilled in it and a threaded end here and some more holes drilled into it. Now, not every lower looks the same. This is an AR lower, and that is going to be the easiest thing to start with. If this is your first gun that you're building or first gun that you're buying, stick to the AR platform. It's that simple. It's the most common, it has the most pieces, it's going to be the easiest to work on, the easiest to find videos on. You could start with something crazy, but I would recommend starting with the AR. Alright, tip 2 is going to be support your local gun store. So typically when you're going to buy a firearm, it varies state by state on the rules and regulations of how you can get one. Some states you can just buy it that day, walk out. Some states you're going to have to actually go through a background check and a waiting period, so on and so forth. If you're not familiar with these laws, go to your local gun store. They're going to know. They're going to be an FFL. They're going to have their federal firearms license, meaning that they can sell firearms, meaning that they're going to know the laws. And sometimes it's best to trust the people that have a license than just reading stuff online. Obviously saying this coming from somebody on YouTube talking to a camera right now. But take it from me, go talk to someone who actually has some knowledge of this. Don't take it from someone on the internet. You don't know what state they're in. You don't know their background, if they're up to date on the laws. The person that's going to know best is going to be the gun store who has to abide by their state, local, and federal laws. So support your local gun store. They provide a lot of valuable information, especially for newbies, and find a good one. If you go in the gun store and they're not friendly, don't go there. Find a different one. Find one that they're going to be there to help you. Explain to them it's your first time. Most gun stores are going to be supportive because they want more people to buy guns because it's in their best interest, and most of the time they genuinely care. Go out there, support them. We need them. They are the people that are helping us to acquire the things that we want, and sometimes it's going to be more expensive, but help them out when you can. Support them. Don't go in there and trying to lowball them and stuff like that. It's not Craigslist. They have a business to run. There's overhead, there's rent, insurance, all that stuff. So they need to pay their bills, keep the lights on, which means there's a price that comes with it. But at the same time, you're going to get help from an actual person and not something you're just going to read on the internet. All right, tip number 3, figure out your level of comfort. There's different levels of lowers. So you've got 80% stripped and I guess partial all the way up to complete. So I don't have an 80% to show you guys, but this would be a stripped lower. As you can see, there's nothing on it. It's just the bare metal. It's just the metal piece that is serialized, and that's it. And then over here, you have a completed lower. So basically, a completed lower is the lower itself, so the stripped lower, plus a lower parts kit, a fire control group, that's the trigger and all the stuff that makes the bullet go bang, and the buffer tube kit and the stock. That's typically what it breaks down to. Some lower parts kits will have a grip, some won't. So you gotta look for that. Some of them will have the fire control group, some won't. It'll also tell you whether or not it comes with the buffer tube kit and the stock and everything you need here. So basically it breaks down to 3 parts. The buffer tube kit, lower parts kit, and the stripped lower. That's the simple breakdown. If you're thinking, oh, well, I can't put it together, I don't know what I'm doing. If this idiot here on YouTube can put it together, trust me, you guys can too. It's not that hard. It's not rocket science. If you watch some videos and read up on it, you'll be able to do it, I promise. It does need some tools. So do keep in mind, if you are going to be piecing the lower together, you may need those tools like the vice grip block, a basically an armorer's wrench is what it's called, and that allows you to put the buffer nut on. Technically, you could do those things to get away and figure out a way without having to buy those tools. It's usually not recommended, but you could do it if you really wanted to. So just keep that in mind. There is a little bit of an additional cost if you're going to be building it yourself. If I was to throw out a ballpark number, all in all, it probably costs you 30 to 50 bucks to buy the tools if you go on the cheaper end. But keep in mind, that is 30 to 50 bucks that you could just put towards having a complete one. Sometimes the difference between buying a complete lower and putting it together yourself might be 30 to 50 bucks. It may be better to just buy the complete lower. So that's going to be on you and how much you care about the building process. I personally enjoy the building process. Even if it costs me a little bit more, I enjoy building it, putting it together, and knowing a little bit more about the gun itself. I would highly recommend it, even if it's going to cost you $10, $15 more. I highly recommend doing the process yourself. It just gets you that much more knowledgeable. You're going to know your firearm better. You're going to know it in and out literally because you have put it together yourself. Tip 4, keep it cheap. Don't overthink it. Don't buy all the Gucci equipment. You don't need to be a tier 1 operator. It's your first rifle build. Don't worry about that. If you've bought in a ton of guns in the past and you really know what you want, then yeah, sure, go ahead. But if this is your first time building and you're not that familiar with putting all these parts together, don't go crazy. Keep it cheap. At the end of the day, this lower is no different than this lower or this lower. And there are going to be small differences, but again, if you don't know what you're getting into and this is your first build or one of your first or even your first gun, don't stress about it. Keep it cheap. Don't spend all this money if you don't know what you're buying. The difference between the $300 lower and the $50 lower is not proportionate to $250. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit nicer. There's going to be quality control, that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you're going to be able to build a fully functional rifle. A $50 lower can be just as accurate as a $300 lower. So keep that in mind. Don't go crazy. All right, tip number 5. Are you a freak of nature? Are you wrong-handed or right-handed? I'm just kidding with you guys. 90% of the population is right-handed, and there's a few freaky 10% of you who shoot with their left hand for some reason. I don't know why. Apparently you were born on the wrong side of the womb. I don't know. Really, you guys got the short end of the stick. I got no other way to put it. Really are going to end up spending more money than the right-handed person if you want a gun that's made for left-handed people. So that's something to keep in mind. Are you right-handed, left-handed? And if you are left-handed, are you just going to shoot a right-handed rifle? Now you may be thinking, oh, why would I learn to shoot a right-handed rifle? There is some merit to it in the sense that most people, again, 90% of the population is right-handed. If someone, I don't know, shit hits the fan and someone hands you a rifle, there's going to be 90% chance or greater that it's going to be a right-handed rifle. They do make ambi lowers, but this goes back to the last point about keeping it cheap. Realistically, if you are left-handed, you're going to pay more money. It's probably going to cost you about $200 more to build an ambi lower. So just keep that in mind. Sucks for you guys. You're the minority. You guys get screwed. Sorry, it's the way it is. Yeah. Tip number 6, stick with the same company if you can. If you know you're a perfectionist and things not matching up perfectly are going to bug you, you're definitely going to want to stick with the same company. For instance, as you can see here, this Anderson lower, for one, the finish is a little bit different than, say, an Aero Precision. So this is an Aero Precision stripped upper. I'm just using this as demonstrative purposes. But if I were to put this onto the Anderson, you can see that essentially the finish is different. You've got a much rougher texture on the Anderson and a much smoother texture on the Aero Precision. That will bug a lot of people. I'll be frank, that would kind of bug me too. And then not to mention, a lot of things don't line up. Like you have these little bumps here and they don't line up whatsoever, especially over here on this side. The magwell doesn't line up too bad. It actually lines up pretty well on here. I gotta say, all in all, that doesn't line up all that bad. I think the most glaring difference is here on the magwell here. It has this little like column. This one's a lot wider on the Anderson and a lot skinnier on the Aero. However, if you were to take the arrow and match it up, it's going to match up near perfectly because it's intended to. These are created for each other. This is an arrow lower with an arrow upper, and it's going to match perfect. Look at that. Magwell matches perfectly. Everything's smooth. Everything looks really nice. So it's easiest just to stick with the same company. If you're going with the lower, get the same upper. Tip number 7, stick to a rifle. So basically, when you buy a lower, you can register it as a pistol or a rifle. So, this is a rifle, stock, pistol, brace. They look pretty much the same, right? However, the brace is meant to be placed around your arm, while stock is not. The brace was created because the intention was that there was a lot of military veterans who injured one of their arms or lost an arm, and now they have to shoot with one arm. They obviously still wanted to shoot. It's something they enjoyed, and they didn't want to give it up completely. And that's why they created the brace. Really cool invention. It has a lot of practicality and opened up a lot of potential in the gun world. So really cool, but I would say touch on it later. If this is your first build, stick to the rifle. And reason being is, again, there's a lot of ambiguity. Just by having that brace on, it opens up a lot more. You can do smaller barrels, stuff like that. So there's a lot more legal things to keep in mind. That's something that I think as a beginner you don't want to be stressing about. You should just get a rifle, have a 16-inch barrel, learn to shoot that first, and then you can build a badass pistol and do whatever you want with it once you know what you want to build. Tip number 8, don't let perfect get in the way good. Look, at the end of the day, this is your first build. It's not going to be perfect. You're going to mess something up. You're going to buy a part that you don't like, but that's part of the learning process. That's okay. Don't let that stop you. Some people, I think, me included, get stuck on buying all the perfect stuff that you never actually do the builds. You never actually get everything you want because you're so worried about everything perfect. You spend 26 hours researching which pivot pin I should put into the lower. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter that much. That's not going to be the make or break of the entire build. But so there's the old saying of cry once, buy once. However, I don't think that's the case when building your own rifle, especially if you're an absolute beginner, you're new. It's not going to work out. That's like going up to a high school senior and saying, "Hey man, buy the best tux you can because you know what? You're going to get married. You can get married in that thing. Cry once, buy once." That doesn't make sense. You're going to grow older. You're going to realize that, man, I was in prom. That was an ugly tuxedo. I bought the one with the hot pink vest and the hot pink tie because all my friends were wearing different colors and we had to match some color scheme. Or my girlfriend's favorite color was teal, so I had to put teal on. You don't know any better. Part of it is the learning process. You do have to just do it in order to learn. You can read up online all day long, but you're just going to be reading people's opinions and what other people say. The only way you're ever going to know is if you go out and you do it yourself. If you're blessed and you got friends with all sorts of tons of rifles and you get to try them out and you get to see what you want without ever buying something, then awesome. Good on you. You can figure it out early. You can bypass all of this. If you got the resources to do that, then do that first. Figure out what you want and then build it. But most people realistically need to go through the process of building it and buying the stuff in order for them to learn what they do and they don't want. Tip 9, choose a known caliber. It's that simple. I'm going to make it this simple for you. Get a .223 or a .556 or both. Don't go out there and get some caliber 69 Thought Slayer or some crazy caliber like that. Just get something normal. I'll make it very simple. Just get a .223 or .556. Now, for those of you who don't know, a .223 barrel can't shoot .556, but a .556 can shoot .223. Unless it's a .223 wild, then it can shoot both. The general consensus is .223 on the bottom, .556 barrel the next step up, and then a .223 wild barrel is even better than that. Tip 10, mil spec, bro. You want to be an operator, you want to be a badass, you need mil spec. If your shit ain't mil spec, it ain't shit. Just kidding. You're going to see mil spec all over the place. Don't stress it. It doesn't mean squat at the end of the day. It should mean something, but there's nobody enforcing whether it means something or not. At the end of the day, mil spec doesn't mean that much. It is a useful indicator to make sure that pieces are going to fit together. It's really just saying, hey, this mil spec lower is going to fit this mil spec upper, and you shouldn't run into any major issues. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you go and you buy the lower that was handmade by the special operative who killed Osama bin Laden, and he pieced it together with his own blood, sweat, and tears. None of that matters. It's not going to make you a better shot. It's not going to make you a better shooter. At the end of the day, you need to go out, you need to train, you need to use it, and you got to learn. That's the number one thing. Don't get caught up on, do I have the best equipment? Am I running the most Gucci shit? Am I a tier 1 operator? Does my multicam plate carrier match my multicam lower? That stuff doesn't matter. Don't worry about that. Build it, enjoy it, learn it. As you grow, you can get more picky and you can spend more money and do that stuff. But first things first, build it, learn from it, grow from it, enjoy it, go out and train, go out and shoot.